Welcome to Ukraine Today. My guest in Warsaw is Ilya Ponomarev, the Russian oppositionist, the only Russian Duma member voted against annexation of Crimea. Mr. Ponomarev, thank you a lot for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You have been living in the USA for a year. You could be arrested in Russia if you decide to cross the border due to the decision of the Russian court accused you in connection with the alleged embezzlement of funds from the state-supported Skolkovo Innovation Center. Do you have some perspective to change the situation and come back to Russia? And what are you actually doing in the USA?
No, of course, I hope that I can influence the situation back home. And fortunately or unfortunately, most likely unfortunately, but for me in this situation, fortunately, the number of Russian diaspora people is growing. Since the beginning of Ukraine war, more than 1 million people left Russia. Actually, this number is closer to 1.5 million. So it's roughly 1% of the population. It's not the worst 1% of the population. Actually, that's the most talented, creative, entrepreneurial people, and most of them are angry, and they want to change the situation back home, and they want to influence, and to get them organized is a very important task and very important challenge that I am involved. Besides that, I'm trying to help Ukraine as much as possible, because I think that's one of the major problems that you have is foreign investment. Your government is trying to reform the country, but is not doing much to sell the country to foreign investors, to show the opportunities that exist. And this is something that I'm trying to help with.
After the death of Boris Nemtsov, Russian oppositionists declared that it was high time to unite against Putin's regime. But now there is no activity in Russia. Where is Russian opposition?
When Boris was murdered, there was a major rally right after that, and there were the same numbers as they were during the process of 2011-2012. So people are still there. They just need to understand, what can be changed if they go on the streets. And unfortunately, that's the main problem, because right now there is no viable way of changing the situation as we speak. It will take time. Some people debate that we should participate in the upcoming elections, which would happen next year, and that might help to reorganize, reshuffle, and get our ranks realigned. I think to a very large degree that's true. And we definitely should use the elections to propagate our views and to communicate with people and to get more traction. Of course, there are a lot of details which can influence whether it's efficient or not that efficient. And I think that if the opposition would try to once again stand on the classical neoliberal platform, it will not be successful. It will be another 2% results. If opposition would go more into left liberal type messages, we can get a pretty large traction of people who right now are disappointed and don't want to go to the polls. And even during regional elections, which we had in September, we saw that for the first time in actually, it's not even a decade, it's like 15 years, the opposition candidate won governor's seat in Irkutsk region. Before that, there was a series of victories on the municipal elections for the opposition. So it means that it is possible if the messages are right and if people are right.
Despite of the unstable truce in Donbass, the new wave of anti-Ukrainian campaign has started in Moscow. You might know that the director of Ukrainian Library was detained on suspicion of breaking the law on extremism. How do you comment on that? And how many steps are left for Putin to reincarnate in Stalin?
Of course, we are living in the police state. It's authoritarian, it's not totalitarian, it's authoritarian. And it's not fair, and there is no legal protection, especially for social and political activists. That's true. And we see that, especially with Ukraine, of course, it's very much politicized, and Putin basically reinstalled actually as Hitler's rhetorics of national traitors and the fifth column and everything. And of course, that's very unhealthy for the society. But we should look not onto the surface, we should look onto the roots of things. And the roots of things is that Russian people, they are very accepting for this propaganda because they want to feel that they are doing something good at last. You know, last 25 years were totally years of frustration and emptiness and pointless life and misery and poverty and corruption and chaos. And now they're given the means of life, like we are liberating our brothers Ukrainians, and that's their feelings. Of course, there are people who like imperialistic in their approach, but I think it would be a mistake to judge the country based on this like 10% of population, which is genuinely imperialistic. I would say that in Ukraine you will see the same 10% people who are like aggressive and nationalist and everything. It doesn't matter. You cannot judge people based just on those not very good guys.
Russian propaganda is trying to create a new trend about connection between Ukraine and ISIS aimed against Russia and supported by Washington. How could this information be used against Ukraine in perspective?
You know, our Slavic cultures, they're very open and very used to different types of conspiracy theories. And of course, Russian propaganda utilizes this in full and trying to seed the roots of this, you know, suspicious things and saying that this guy is a spy, this guy is an agent here and there. But again, as I said, like we shouldn't extrapolate it to the whole of population and to all of nation. And Russians cannot say like all Ukrainians are CIA spies, because we know that we have a lot of relatives. Half of my family is from Ukraine, and that's true for most of Siberian families. Most of them are coming from Ukraine. So you cannot say like Ukraine is all like dominated by Americans or Germans, you know, that like say they have some traitors, whatever. That will not work. So yes, it's this general hysteria that there are spies in Russia, you know, like it was in the 30s, you know, it's nothing new, it's a reintroduction of the same very bad and malicious practices and approaches that we had in the past, but it will pass.
Could you say that this anti-Ukrainian campaign is a step for possible escalation of the conflict in the unpleasant future?
You know, with all this Novorossiya, again, the project that existed was only one project, is to showcase that revolution cannot be successful. That's one ultimate goal that Putin pursued and will continue to pursue, and as long as he's in power, he would always fight against all revolutions in every single part of the world, and of course in particular in Ukraine. His tactics might change, and right now tactics, I think, is not about military action in eastern Ukraine, but rather in letting your own government make your mistakes by trying to showcase to international community that it's not Russia, but it's Ukraine who is not honoring so-called Minsk treaties. And they're written in the way so they cannot be fully honored. But he wants you to make the mistakes, you to be bad guys.
Russia has opened a new front in Syria. What could Putin do more for his rating, which is already incredibly high, almost 90% of support?
I don't think it's a question of like increasing rating. I think it's a question of sustaining rating. You know, it's the nation is on high, and it's gonna to wear off pretty soon. That's why he has to repeat different acts of aggression and to pump up this altogether and to escalate his policies. And that's what is most dangerous, because I don't think that Ukraine, Syria, and he will stop. I think that he will need to go in other parts of the world, and I think that Baltic states could be in danger, Moldova can be in danger, other countries might be in danger. He already said that he would act very actively as interventionist.
Mr. Ponomarev, thank you a lot for finding time to talk to us.
Thank you.
I'm Margarita Sitnik, together with Ilya Ponomarev, the Russian oppositionist from Warsaw.